Welcome back to the Smugsy Show. I'm Smugsy, your host, identifying as the Barstool Cougar. Every Wednesday, we meet here, talk about important things and important people. This week, we hear from Sig Chester, the investor taking Smugciggys public. We'll also celebrate the new photo exhibit and our only fan. But first, did you meet the new Kirk Minihane this week? Kirk Minihane's new real crime podcast, The Case, made its debut, and new Kirk Minihane is Kirk Minihane for adults. He took a play essentially right out of Smugsy's playbook and wrote a new narrative for himself, and the critics circle here on the Smugsy Show is pleased to announce that we give the premiere episode of The Case podcast a B+. So congratulations to Kirk Minihane. New Kirk Minihane. I mean, everybody knows about new Dave Portnoy, right? Founder of Barstool Sports and Wall Street King. He once was fat and boorish, and now billionaire in skinny jeans. And Kirk Minihane, new Kirk Minihane, they're skinny jeans in the future. You heard it here on the Smugsy Show. We talked about New Dave last week. You know, New Dave is moving from New York City to Miami to make a statement to mark the end of an era. He's growing up, he says, New Dave. And guess who's not getting left behind? New Kirk Minihane. Unlike Jared Carabas, or however you say it, new Kirk Minihane is, he's charming, sane, funny. In The Case, he tells a really good story, and the editing becomes him. The first show is 45 minutes, which is really the sweet spot. The story is about Jennifer Fay, allegedly a 16-year-old from Brockton, Massachusetts, who disappeared without much fanfare or public inquiry whatsoever on November 14th, 1989, I think. So Kirk and his producer Steve, they begin to uncover the story, and of course there's a whiff of Steve Robinson's exaggeration and stretching the truth and moralizing, but it's obvious that the writing's on the wall that the hero in the end will be Kirk Minihane. That's obvious. So, spoiler alert, but who else could it be, right? Little Jimmy, motorcycle man, idiot investigator. So Kirk will be the hero, and I'm not going to spoil it, but essentially Kirk and Steve stumbled upon a serial killer in a whole parade of characters that are quite unsavory and not sympathetic in the least, including the mother of Jennifer Fay. So, but it works. The grit looks good on Kirk Minihane. Daniel Craig-like. And all this bopping around that Kirk's doing to the popular Barstool podcasts and meeting with all the stars like Erica Nardini, talking about his new genre of work. I mean, that nothing telegraphs new Kirk Minihane like the word genre rolling off his lips. New Kirk is fresh and cool, and he's at the center of the in crowd now at Barstool Sports. Football player, popular kid. Only time will tell if new Kirk survives. It's very hard on the internet and social media to reinvent oneself. But on this Easter Monday, Kirk Minihane is risen. He's having a moment. New Kirk. Want personally to extend my congratulations and wishes for all success. The Smugsy Show is brought to you by Smugciggys, sleek and elegant ciggies made with organic cannabis, rolled in sheafs of locally sourced all-natural paper. Look for Smugciggys in the indigo and marigold packs. For those of you who are new to the show, Smugciggys is the latest in a long line of business adventures that I'm involved in when I'm not running the Cougars, which is the exclusive new Barstool fan club for women who like dogs. Yeah, I'm a business person, an entrepreneur, and like really every business person, Serena Williams, A-Rod, Shaq. I'm gunning for a SPAC. And thankfully, we've been connected with an investor, Sig Chester, who is putting together a SPAC to take Smugciggys to the moon. And we last heard from Sig in March. That's when I had suggested possibly Steve from Providence, who identifies as an actor, doing some of the work. And also I appointed Sig Chester to SPAC, which is the Smugciggys Quality Assurance Committee. Sig at that time was looking to Angola for investors, so we'll see what he has to say today. Dear Smugsy, I owe you an update. First, thank you for hooking me up with Steve from Providence. As you mentioned, he's not really a lawyer, but he seems happy to represent himself as a lawyer, and that's good enough for me. Best of all, he's willing to put off getting paid until we've closed the IPO, which kicks the can down the road. And I'm handling the accounting work with some acquaintances with Big Four backgrounds, so the experts are covered. Thanks to Steve's efforts, we have our registration statement on file, and it looks like our friends in Angola are committed, or at least as committed as a filthy, rich, corrupt family from Angola can be. Per Steve's advice, Smugciggys is not mentioned in the prospectus, but we assure you you're our first deal once we close. The only question is whether we pair your acquisition with something else, ideally something in an adjacent or complementary field, like maybe artisanal snacks, kaleidoscopes, or pajamas, or something else Etsy-ish. Let me know if you have suggestions. I also want to thank you for adding me to SPAC. It's a bit challenging to keep up with the workload, the testing workload, but I found a hidden reserve of energy that's helping me power through the product, which, by the way, is remarkably high quality. I've also really enjoyed making new friends and the respectability of being associated with such a well-credentialed group like SPAC has convinced my girlfriend to lighten up. Parentheses, she didn't flush because she wanted me to see what she'd done. That's how she rolls. Plus, she likes to conserve energy, which can be pretty gross. Stay tuned, Sig. Okay, well, time really is of the essence. I mean, SPACs are going crazy, gangbusters. They could be out of fashion any minute. I think I'll get right back to Sig Chester. Dear Sig, not to harp on the girlfriend, but if Smugciggys elevates her out of the toilet, what a case study for marketing that could be. Nothing sells like reality, except, of course, an NFT, which is something I might want to talk to you about once we get this SPAC buttoned up. As for what to pair with the acquisition, how about organic erectile dysfunction medication or auto insurance? I do like the idea of PJs, though. Let's sleep on it. Steve from Providence's advice to leave Smugciggys off the SPAC registration statement, that sounds completely and utterly ridiculous, like a sham, or something a filthy, rich, corrupt family in Angola might pull. But I will stay tuned as you suggest and wait. I can always write him off the show if need be. I think that happens a lot. Smugsy. Well, we'll get that out and hopefully hear from Sig Chester very soon about buttoning up our SPAC. Finally, a big shout out to our OnlyFan. That's OnlyFan U5699529. Our only OnlyFan. You can follow us on OnlyFans for exclusive content at Smugsy Girl, where you'll find the latest photo exhibit that I'm very proud of. There's a few photos on Smugsy's gallery in the studio at syndicatemedia.net. That's where you'll find all your favorite show content, including letters from Sig Chester, scripts of the show, links to the show, and photos. There are exclusive photos on OnlyFans, but there are some photos in the gallery. That's syndicatemedia.net, syndicate with a C, media.net. That's it for today's show. Please subscribe to this show, leave a comment, follow me on Twitter at SmugsyGirl, and until next time, take care. This is Smugsy signing off.